Okay, today we've got a little how-to video. Basically going to make the old school way of doing the metal cages that go around the lights on the time machine control console. The easiest way to do this is to 3D print this little jig, which I'll have the file up on Thingiverse. And this not only gives you the diameter to form the bottom ring with, as you can see it fits on there, but that also provides you with a way of trying to hold this and stay in camera, with taking a pencil and making marks at all these points, so when you start soldering the vertical ribs on, you know where to do it, so things end up being spaced right. Now the same form is also used to make the first rib section. It'll be a double rib section, the first one we put on. So basically we can bend it around and come to here. Now for the wire on this, I'll give you 3 different ways of ordering it. It's 3/32 is a very common way of calling this brass rod, but the other way would be 0.09 if you're in the hundredths of an inch, or if you live in the land of metric, it'd be a 2.4 millimeter. And the thing about brass is when you bend it, it springs back. So you don't bend it to shape, you have to overbend it and then compensate for that. So for example, this piece of extra rod that I have here, I'm going to take this large socket. In this case, this is a 1¼ inch Craftsman socket. But you just have to experiment and find something. Take a pair of pliers. I'm going to grab right near the very end of this and pinch it against the socket like that. And then I'm going to bend this thing around further than I think I need to go, like that. So they end up with something shaped like this. And then I'm going to put it on here and take a look at it. And it's a little overbent, so I straighten her out a little bit. Then I'm going to take this center point, nib that off, and down here in the bottom we need to take a little of that off too. Now we're going to end up having to adjust the length of this exactly once we start soldering things together. Cutting it with those wire snips leaves the end kind of buggered up. So I take a file and kind of take that flat. Now I've already folded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be the 6th individual rib there, and I have the dual rib here. So altogether there's 8 ribs that go on one of these. Now the circle that I'd already formed on there, I already soldered where the 2 ends came together, so I know where that one point is, and I have a pencil mark so I know where the top part is. So I'm going to take this high wattage 40-year-old soldering gun. Let's see if it has the wattage written on here anywhere. I'd be surprised if it still did. I think it was a 50 watt. There is something written there. Might say 60 watt. I can't tell with my bad eyeballs. Anyway, it gets more than hot enough, even though it's older than the hills. And I'm going to make a little solder right on that pencil line adjacent. Actually, I should just go around and mark all of those pencil marks with just a little dab of solder, because it's going to be easier to locate them later if you don't accidentally rub the pencil lines off. This can take some time to do. The first one can easily take you more than an hour until you kind of get into the swing of it. Okay, so I've got all those marked. Then I'm going to go ahead and pre-prep the ends of this dual rib with some solder. Like so. I should say that when I formed the dual rib and this circle, I basically started with a ruler and measured off. Just ordered this rod stock off Amazon. Take your rod stock and measure off 6 3/4 inches, which I think I wrote down in case you don't want to get on the computer. That'd be like 171.5 millimeters. But anyway, so I've got it at 6 3/4 there. Come down here and just cut that off. And start with that length to form a circle. And start with that length to form the double rib. The individual ones, which you saw me bend, is just going to be the scrap that's left over, because these rods come 12 inches long. So once you're done 6 3/4, you're only going to get one more rib off the end of that. So now I'm going to take this upright, and it doesn't really matter where I start. Find a nice big glob of solder, and we're going to readjust this as we go along, but basically it's burning my fingers. I basically tack it on there, and then I get something. Unless you got really good eyes, I want to be able to sight this so I know when I've got it aiming vertically. So I had a big old hunk of aluminum sitting there. I think that should it'll probably be all right for now. So I'm trying to eyeball it here and see if it looks like it's semi-square, and I think it is. I mean, if you had a regular square, you could use that too, or if you just have a really good set of eyes where you can look at it and go, ah, yeah, that's a good square angle. So then you're going to start with some of the little individual ribs and just kind of hold them there and see if it's a little bit tall. Let me see if I have one that's just a little bit shorter sitting here. Not that. 6 of them sitting here, you know one of them is going to end up being a little bit shorter. That is just a little bit shorter. Let's see what else we got here. I like that one better. That one's longer. Ooh, this one's quite a bit shorter. Let's see if that'll fit. I think that'll be all right. So in this case, I'm going to prepare some solder on the end of it. And then using those marks, try to eyeball everything to look square. It's actually turned a little bit. It's not quite right. And it's burning my fingers. It's just amazing how quickly heat travels up that brass rod. I think that's close, so I'm going to tack it at the top as well. Like so. And I'm going to reflow the bottom. Like I say, we can adjust it again later. So now let's find one for the opposite side that fits. You know, there's other ways you can make these. This is just the old school way. You can 3D print these cages as well, and I'll do a separate video talking about that. And the file will be up on Thingiverse as well, in case you decide you'd rather 3D print them than make it out of metal. Or you could 3D print them in metal. If you, well, we'll talk about that later. Right now we're doing the old school way. I suppose you could wear an oven glove, then you wouldn't have to burn your fingers. It seems a little long. Let's just see if any of these others look like they'll fit in better. That's long. Okay, they're all a little bit long, so we're just going to snip a little off the end. That looks better. I'm not going to file the end after snipping it because it looked like it was just the right length as is. Looks pretty good. This one's long. Still long, so this one I'm going to file down that cut edge. If you don't want to buy the proper rod, of course you could use other things. If you happen to have some large gauge electrical copper wiring, you could make them out of copper. Nice thing about copper is that when you bend it to a particular shape, it's the right shape. So if you bent the copper just around this form, it would be the right shape. You wouldn't have to go back and re-manipulate it or anything. But being soft, it can get dinged up. It does solder real easy though. So I mean, that's something also to consider. And it might just be something you have laying around. I suppose a person could even use coat hangers if they could clean it enough. And I'm just using regular electrical solder here. I'm not hitting this with acid core or anything like that. It's your regular, see if it's marked, yep, regular 60/40, the good stuff. And what's going to happen next is once that cools down enough that I can hold on to it, I'm going to take the file. I'm going to file the top where I soldered it. See if I can hold it. One of these has got to be cool enough to hold on to. Maybe not. I'll rest it on here. So you can see the top. I'm going to file that smooth. I'll go around the edges and file the solder joints. And then around the inside, I'm going to take the Dremel with the sanding disc on it. The sanding drum. Just run around the inside and hit all the high points, because then it'll fit right on here like these do. So once you've filed it, it's going to look like that. Oh, and to get the even color, of course, it's painted. You want it to match everything else on the time machine, so you're going to end up painting it whatever your favorite color is, where you're going with the copper or whether you're going with the metallic gold, which is what this is, which looks more copper. I've always found it weird that when you buy some copper paints, they look gold, and when you buy gold paints, they look copper. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I found that to be true. So this is the metallic gold that I like using on this, just a Krylon color. This is just knocking off any of the high spots from the solder. I don't like the way that one's soldered. I'm going to solder that one again. I think it should be stronger. Doesn't look like it flowed all the way around. And now is the time to do it, because once you get paint on there, it's going to be more difficult. And I don't think the Dremel will reach. No, it won't reach into the camera's point of view, but you'll hear it running. And I'm just running it around the inside of that ring, just trying to knock off any high spots. It might be a little warm to set on this 3D printed part. Oh good, it fits. So we're good. So this is going to be your ticket to making them right. And like I say, there'll be a link to that. And it's going to be easiest if you just go ahead and buy some rod stock off Amazon or whatever your favorite site is for doing that sort of thing. And I'll hit it with a little bit of the old metallic gold. Not wanting to get it on my fingers too much, I'll hold on to it this way. This can is almost empty. I don't think there's anything in it but fumes, but it might be enough for this basket. And let's get this one outside edge where the clips were. There. Okay. Now granted, most of those pieces were pre-prepped before I started the video, but I think that gives you a good idea of how to go about making one of the wire cages for a time machine that looks proper to the movie version, the 1960s movie version. And I think that's about all I wanted to cover in this video.